Do you ever feel out of sync with the market? Are you constantly guessing? Do you have trouble identifying the next big move? Join me and 7 other Elliott Wave and Fibonacci experts on Tuesday, February 13th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I'll be presenting at 11 a.m. New York time. I'll be focusing this presentation on Euro-Dollar, and if I have time, I might also cover Bitcoin's Elliott Wave analysis. So click below to register now. Do not miss this event. At the end of the event, all attendees will get links to access special offers from each presenter, but you have to be registered to access these offers. So click below and register now. Hello everybody, this is Lara from Pure Elliott Wave with your Monday to Friday update for Bitcoin, Ethereum and XRP. Stepping back, let's have another look at the big picture for Bitcoin. I just want to remind everyone that it's blindingly obvious that Bitcoin is in an upward trend. There's a series of higher highs, there's a series of higher lows when you look at the entire price history of Bitcoin. It's so obviously in an upward trend. It's not in a consolidation for the long term, and it's not in a bear market. Within this big, huge upward trend, there are short-term bear markets. Here's a big one, another one. Here's a year-long bear market here, and another one here. But since that low in November 2022, there's been upward movement for more than a year. This looks most likely to be the resumption of a bull market. One of my maxims that's gotten me out of trouble so many times over the years is always assume the trend remains the same until proven otherwise. We should assume that Bitcoin is in an upward trend until proven otherwise. What do I mean by proven otherwise? The basic definition of an upward trend is a series of higher highs and higher lows. This is the last highest high, the all-time high in November 2021. The previous highest low, major swing low to that, is this low of March 2020. It's at 4106.98. For this major bullish trend to be proven to have changed to a major bearish trend, we would need to see the last higher low prior to the higher high taken out to the downside. So we would need to see a new low by any amount at any time frame below 4106.98. While that has not happened, it would be safest to assume that the trend remains the same. There's a lot to really like for bullishness in this chart. The short-term 12-month moving average has crossed over the longer-term 24-month moving average. That's the pink line has just recently crossed above the orange. If I zoom in, you can see that crossover here. Volume is again starting to steadily increase month on month. I am skeptical of this crypto compare data. The volume for the last year or so is a lot lighter than all previous volume, but I've checked other data sources and there has been a decline in volume, just not as much as crypto compare shows us. But what is important is for the short term, we're seeing volume push price higher. ADX gives us the strongest bullish signal it has ever given from Bitcoin. The black ADX line is rising up from the lowest level it's ever been at. It has a positive slope, it's above 15, the positive DX line is above the negative, and so ADX is telling us there is an upward trend in a very early stage. You can draw a nice channel around RSI and you can have a look and see when it peaks and hits the upper edge of this channel, that tends to be where bull runs end, and when it touches the trough, that seems to be when bear markets end around about. Now it's not perfect. The first touch here followed several months later by the second touch. The first touch here, the close at 4921.85 in August 2017. If you'd sold there expecting the bullish run was over, you would have missed out on some massive gains. The eventual close in December 2017 was 13,850 and the high was 19,870. So it can touch twice. It nearly touched the trough down here and nearly touched the trough down here. So using the model of RSI swinging from overbought to just below the 50 mark, we'd expect overall an upward continuation for price until RSI reaches the upper edge of this channel. So that's a really bullish look as well for Bitcoin. And I got that idea from Paul Webborn on Twitter. It's a really, really simple idea, and I love simple ideas. The simpler, the better. If we let our emotions make our investing and trading decisions, we're probably going to lose. And that's what most people do. Most people will buy when prices are high, when Bitcoin is in these huge bullish runs, because that's when it makes headlines. And that's when they hear about people becoming millionaires from Bitcoin and they want to get in. Fear of missing out and greed dominates their buying decisions. And so they buy when prices are high. When prices are low, we have some negative news or no news. It just dies out and volume declines, interest declines. People are absolutely convinced that it's all over. They missed the bullish run. It's not going to happen again. And so they'll sell when prices are low. A lot of people would have bought around these peaks and sold around these troughs and lost money. When you look at a chart like this, it just seems really obvious that you need to buy around one of these troughs and you need to sell at one or subsequent following peaks. But it's actually really difficult to do because of psychology. When prices are high, greed dominates, that's when we buy. When prices are low, fear dominates, and that's when we sell. So we buy high and sell low, but you need to do the opposite. You need to buy low and sell high. You have to remove emotion, step back, and focus on data. And that's why I really like to focus on the charts. And that's why I'm giving you this analysis every day, Monday to Friday, as I walk you through my decisions for how I'm going to sell when prices are high. Keep in mind the psychology of investing and trading in markets. Be aware that greed and fear are dominant emotions and you need to work actively against them. And the first step of doing that is to be aware of how that works. Lecture over. Sorry guys. I'm just really trying to help everyone stay calm and focused on the data and not emotion. Bitcoin's broken out of this little inverted head and shoulders pattern. Head, left-hand shoulder, right-hand shoulder. Here's your armpits, so you draw the neckline. And I calculated the breakout point at 44018.69. I've added the distance from the head to the right-hand armpit, and that's how I've calculated the target. 49362 is now in play. This upward session did have some push from volume, so we can be confident of this upward breakout. We might see a little back test of support now, about 44,700, but look out potentially for a little pullback again when price gets up to 48,000. So very good to see volume starting to push price higher. It looks like Bitcoin may be in the early stages of the next bullish run. And today we have a bullish signal from on-balance volume breaking above this resistance line, which has about 3 tests, a little bit of a slope, so it's not a very strong bullish signal, but it's somewhat long held, so it's a reasonable bullish technical signal. And this supports the breakout from the head and shoulders inverted pattern, and so we can have a little bit of confidence in that target, 49,362. ADX is declining, it's below 15, the DX lines are whipsawing, there's no clear trend indicated in this market, but I'm really excited to see that ADX is now at low levels and setting itself up for the strongest signal it can give. We're going to get that signal probably in the next week or so. And if Bitcoin is, as I expect, in its early stage of the next bullish run, we're going to get that signal maybe within a week. RSI is still neutral, so when a new trend develops, there's going to be quite a long way to go before it gets extreme. Money flow is also neutral. ATR is still declining. There is some weakness up off this low. That's actually, unfortunately, pretty normal for cryptocurrencies. This is my only remaining Elliott Wave count for Ethereum. Yesterday, the alternate was invalidated, and so this wave count now expects a third wave up at minuet, within minute, within minor, within intermediate, primary, and cycle degrees is in its very early stages. We have some confidence now with a new high above 2455.87. I'll get rid of that because that's now historic. If minute 2 were to continue lower, and I'm going to leave that possible, it could be some kind of combination, then it can't move beyond the start of 1 below 1521.78. I'll leave the invalidation point down here until we've made a new short-term high. As soon as that happens, then minuet 3 would have met a core Elliott Wave rule to move beyond the end of 1, and then I'll pull the invalidation point up to here. This channel here, the lower edge is nicely showing us where for the last couple of weeks or so, price has been finding support for pullbacks. Look out for some resistance about the upper edge when price gets there before a breakthrough, and then perhaps a back test of support before it moves up and away. These are, I don't really like to think of them as targets. They're kind of like ballpark figures. I'm using an extreme Fibonacci ratio, 11.09, to calculate targets for both of these little third waves. But for my own purposes, for my investment with Ethereum, I'm focusing on primary wave 3 and cycle wave 3. I'm not going to be exiting at any of these small waves. I'm going to hold for the longer term, so I don't want to miss out on the fifth waves that end the third wave impulses, and eventually we'll have intermediate 5 to end primary 3. That's going to be a vertical upward movement, and I don't want to have just sold just before that and miss out on the best profit. Technicals for Ethereum today, look out for support now at 2,400, next resistance above 3,580. This pullback may have relieved extreme conditions and bearish divergence. So this may have been the follow through from that bearish divergence. The hammer candlestick pattern down here, occurring just a little bit above support at 2,100, suggests that we may have a low in place. Volume for Ethereum also is starting to come back. It's starting to show as support for upward movement. That's very good to see. The range for on-balance volume has pretty weak technical significance. If we see a break above here, it'd be a pretty weak bullish signal, but if I can redraw this line before that happens to be less steeply sloped, then I will. ADX has come to just below 15. It has a positive slope, but it's not quite above 15. If it reaches 15 with a positive slope, it'll give us a very, very strong bullish signal for Ethereum. RSI is neutral. There's quite a long way to go before it gets as overbought as it can get. And money flow's neutral, still below the 50 mark. Still have 3 Elliott Wave counts for XRP. I'm labeling them 1, 2, 3, but I actually prefer the third wave count, so I don't call this one the main, it's just wave count 1. I think it has a pretty low probability. Considers intermediate 2 a zigzag beginning here where 1 ends, A, B, C to be a 5-wave motive structure and impulse, so we need the middle of a third wave and a bunch of fourth waves to unfold along down to the target area. This is where intermediate 2 would reach 80 to 90% the depth of intermediate wave 1, which is pretty normal for a big second wave for a crypto. But what if intermediate 2 is a zigzag, A, but B is a triangle, and C is an ending contracting diagonal? As I said yesterday, this requires a huge overshoot of the 1-3 trend line so that C moves below the end of A to avoid a truncation. Truncations are very rare, so I would not expect that. And that would just look wrong for this wave count. So this wave count actually has the best look. Intermediate 2 could have been over here as a zigzag, and then minor 1 and now minor 2 could be complete. So intermediate 3 could be in its very, very early stages with minor 3 just beginning. Technicals for XRP today, it's showing weakness. It's not as strong as the other two, so a little bit of concern again for this one. I have been concerned for a while, but we do have this cluster of 6 hammer candlestick patterns around lows. Support at 0.4875 does continue to hold, and a little bit of an increase in volume in the last few days, but I really would like to see volume reach at least stronger than the 30th of January before I said that the volume profile is looking comfortably newly bullish. XRP is at resistance for on-balance volume, and this resistance line has a not too steep a slope. It's not too shallow, it's kind of in between, and it's got 5 tests and it's somewhat long held at this time frame. So if this current session completes green, on balance volume is going to give us a bullish signal with a break above this resistance line, and then I would have a little bit more confidence in XRP being in its early stages of the next bullish run. ADX is declining. It's telling us for XRP there's no clear trend at this time frame. The previous downward trend did reach extreme, but not very extreme. RSI and money flow got pretty close to oversold, but they didn't actually get there. So for a downward trend, this is one of the more extreme looks, so that adds just a touch of confidence that that low could be in place. But for ADX to tell us there is a new upward trend, it's going to take quite a lot to turn it around. The DX lines have to cross over so that the positive DX line is above the negative, and the ADX line would then have to have a positive slope. Because these DX lines are so far apart, that's going to take quite a while, or a really big movement over just a very few days to cross those over. RSI is still neutral, as is money flow. And that's it for me today with your quick update for these three, and I hope everybody is having a lovely day, and I really hope to see you all, or as many of you as I can, on Tuesday next week at the FX Traders Edge event. So if you haven't registered, then there's a link below, and I'll leave it below for every video up until Tuesday.